Had some pretty unfortunate events happen this week. I had to spay one of my best females with a belly full of puppies. Second time she had Pyometra. Second time she had Pyometra while she was pregnant. The first time we aborted the litter with medication and flushed her uterus out and ran a long cycle of strong antibiotics to clear the infection out. She came back in the heat. She ovulated. She dropped dropped eggs. Everything's perfectly normal. Got pregnant again. Unfortunately, as my vet said, there are some females that have very, very deep folds, deep pockets in their uterus, and sometimes you just can't clear the infection out all the way. And some females are prone, wicked susceptible to Pyometra, especially after they've had it a first time. So even with us running antibiotics during her heat and after her surgical, didn't help. She got Pyometra again and had to be spayed. Now, with that being said, we're going to talk about Pyometra. We're also going to talk about Parvo. Definitely something that a lot of people are confused about, especially Pyometra. Open, quote unquote, open Pyometra, quote unquote, closed Pyometra. It's all the same shit. It's just the only difference is whether the cervix dilated or not. We'll get into that. But yeah, it's been a pretty rough week for me. So although this is a July 4th Independence Day episode, it's a little bit of a dark cloud hanging over us, but it's part of the life. It's part of owning dogs. It's part of breeding. It doesn't get easier. The longer you do it, it doesn't mean it gets easier. You know, it actually becomes more of a frustration because the longer you do this shit, the more bullshit you're going to see. So the longer you stay in this game, the longer you stay with the dog breeding, showing, traveling, like the longer you stay at the shit, the more shit you're going to see. So sometimes it can be frustrating. But we're going to plow through. Bull-NA-ChinaShop.
I'm taking applications right now. I need more haters. Yo. What the fuck is going on? You amazing motherfuckers. And we are in a China shop back again. You want to advertise for someone? Advertise my shit. Bull-NA-ChinaShop.com. What the fuck is a week? Stop taking fucking pictures of the puppy. We're going to be hosted by yours truly, High Lonely Pine.
Yo! Episode 48. You motherfuckers. Everybody's expecting me to call them beautiful. I don't know if you're beautiful or not. I think I'm going to stop doing that because I'm not sure if I'm comfortable handing these compliments out to everybody without verifying whether or not you motherfuckers are in fact beautiful. Either way, episode 48. Bull-NA-ChinaShop podcast, the first and only podcast dedicated to the bull breeds and the American bully lifestyle. As I spoke on in the opener, we're going to talk about some pretty crazy shit this week. We're going to get into some shit that a lot of people don't talk about. A lot of people are superstitious about, like even I'm a little squeamish about talking about Parvo, really, because a lot of times Parvo can be a fucking shroud of doom that falls over a kennel. Another one's brucellosis, but we'll save that for another episode when I have more information about it. The more I learn about brucellosis, the more I feel like, holy fuck, dogs they can get AIDS. Dog AIDS is called brucellosis. Okay? Anyway, I'm getting off on a tangent already. Episode 48. I brought in a little bit of an expert on the parvo subject. Not really an expert, but Tyler Wilson recently went through some crazy shit with parvo. Also, actually came through it crazy. How the diligence, the work that went into it, kind of came through on the other side, squeaky clean, to where it didn't spread, it didn't go anywhere. I actually, just like I said earlier, I just dealt with another case of Pyometra. Two things that a lot of people don't talk about. So I brought in a little bit of an expert, Mr. Tyler Wilson. Thanks for being on the podcast again, sir.
Not a problem.
I mean, you don't sound too excited about talking about Pyometra or parvo.
Yeah, those words aren't even allowed to be said around here.
It's like scary shit.
You know.
You said it's a career ender. Can be
for the dogs, or
right.
You know, if it gets out of hand, it can wipe out a whole kennel
easily too. You know, it's not like if you don't take the right steps. You know, if you don't put the effort forward and do the shit that you have to do, it can be devastating. And it's hard for people. It's hard for a lot of people to understand how devastating, because until you deal with that, until you go through that shit, you don't know until you know. It's one of those things. You don't know until you go through it and you know.
Yeah. And it's almost kind of one of those things that, like, you don't even think about, like, you pretend it's not even a real thing. And then all of a sudden it punches you right in the freaking throat. You know, you got to catch your breath and basically buckle up and hang on.
And, you know, on cue, on schedule, we're going to have 11 o'clock train run. I mean, on schedule. It's like they know as soon as I fire this microphone up, and they just run right out here blaring that fucking horn. But happy 4th of July, by the way. Before we get into the sad shit and the somber shit, happy 4th of July, happy Independence Day. I don't know what you guys did fun and exciting. I just enjoyed a nice, chill, 80 degree Kansas day with the dogs. So, I mean, it could not have been better for me. I see on Facebook you guys went up the river, did a little river thing, little kayak. I don't know. What is that? Is that a canoe? Is that a kayak? What is that?
Yeah, it's kind of a new little thing we got into. There's a lake. There's a state park up the road from us, and we went up there and decided to do a little exercise and do a little fishing at the same time. So we paddled around the lake and didn't catch a damn fish, but we sure tried.
That sounds terrible.
It was incredibly hot out on the water. There's no shade out there. It was brutal.
Well, yeah, and I think the biggest thing is the sunlight is actually reflecting off the water also. So you're getting hit from above, and you're getting that reflection off the water and getting baked from below too, I feel like.
Yeah, it was an experience. Yeah, I felt like wrestling practice. I just sweat my balls off. But where we went, they have a policy that you can't jump in. Plus, getting back on a kayak in the middle of a lake would probably be pretty difficult anyway, so.
Yeah, I feel like that's comedy reel kind of shit. America's Funniest Home Videos type of moments right there.
Yeah.
Okay, so the reason I wanted to have you sit in on this conversation, my original guest for this week backed out on me, which is fine. We'll get him on a later week. But B, you went through a fucking ordeal with this parvo shit that we've been talking about. And I wanted you to kind of go through from beginning to end of like what's the scenario that went down, how, what, when it kind of chimed into your mind that, hey, we might have a situation, and what you did to stop that situation from becoming a career ending thing like you were talking about. So when did you have, and okay, so how have you ever had parvo before this incident that I'm talking about? Have you ever dealt with that before that?
No, and that's when we put together our vaccination protocol. That was the biggest key. We use Neopar religiously, and we do, every 2 weeks, and when they're going through their puppy shots, and we don't use the 5-way because we want to hit the parvo directly, so we've been, and that was something that I was raised with, honestly, and
Neopar, you mean?
I don't know if Dad ever dealt with it before I did, before I kind of came along, or started realizing what was going on.
Right.
But it's always been there, and it's always been a big deal. So we've always treated it as such. So.
But okay, so when did you mean Neopar has been something that you've that's been around since you grew up? Your dad's been using that forever, you mean?
The Neopar, I'm not sure about. I don't know the exact when that specific drug came around, but I know that even growing up, like parvo was a huge thing. I was always taught to check the poops, and make sure everybody kind of was taught the signs of it. And when I was younger, if something like that came up, if any of those symptoms came up, I was it was make a phone call right away to Dad, or whatever the case may have been. But so I shouldn't. Now we use Neopar religiously. That drug has been proven.
Yeah, it's something
times to be very, very effective, and we'll that's ultimately what saved us from really just everybody dying off.
Well, I mean, that's Neopar is something that the listener should be used to hearing, familiar with that name, because I preach that shit. It's a game changer. It's something that, like you're saying, the 5-way shots are good once they're 14, 16 weeks, 12 weeks or above. You're going to protect them from the lepto. You're going to protect them from the influenza. You're going to protect them from the other, they need that immunization, and that they need that protection. But the parvo vaccines that are in those shots are shit, and they've been proven to be shit. And
it's 5 vaccines diluted into one, into one shot. So none of the vaccines in that are concentrated as one.
Right.
And pretty good odds your puppy's not going to get the flu or distemper. I mean, if your 4-week-old puppy's out fighting coons, you probably have other issues going on than what vaccine you're using.
Here's the thing. Even if your 4-week-old puppy does get leptospirosis, which is Jesus, I mean, that's unfortunate. That's bad luck right there, But even if that does happen, it's probably not going to die. You're probably not going to be a life and death situation, even if it's like a influenza situation. Even if your puppy gets the flu. Now, I've been hearing about these
these new strains are wicked.
Super flu strains and shit, right? So I mean that's a possibility, but the 95, 97% of the time, you're not going to be facing a life and death situation with those other viruses that vaccine's protecting against. You're not, you're 99 times out of 100 not going to be facing a life and death situation. With parvo, if your puppy gets parvo, you're almost always going to be facing a life and death situation.
Yeah.
So I agree. I think the Neopar, I do Neopar 5 weeks, but before the puppies actually go outside physically, they're hit with the Parvo vaccination just because who knows who lived here 10 years ago. You know what I mean? Who knows?
Right.
Even with you buying your spot last year or 2 years ago, who knows who lived there 10 years ago and what was in that ground. So before the puppies actually go outside, we hit them with the Neopar, make sure they got that protection from Parvo because that shit is, that shit is scary shit. Anyway.
Yeah, and the nice thing about the Neopar too is that it doesn't require a prescription, so you can get on Revival just like you would order your 5-ways. There's an option right there that says Neopar, so it's not something that you got to have a good relationship with your vet or whatever.
Now we don't know who Revival is here at the Bull-NA-ChinaShop podcast. If you're looking for Neopar, you head right to valleyvet.com. You can get anything you need. Now, Valley Vet's not a sponsor, but it's a fucking hometown place. I gotta show support. It's literally 5 miles down the road, and Caitlin works there. So we
yeah, my bad. I forgot about that.
Any chance I get, we push Valley Vet. They're super great to us. Like I said, you can get, if you need Neopar, obviously Revival Animals is a good spot to get it. Valley Vet's a good spot to get it. Basically anywhere that sells the 5-in-1s, you can also get the Neopar.
Correct.
But okay, so back to that situation we were talking about with you. What happened? First of all, what happened? How did you even get Parvo introduced to your yard?
Well, it was an unfortunate deal. It was a client dog. It had only been here for like 2 days, and before for our county and license and all that other jazz that they require, we have to have proof of vaccines and a rabies certificate, just a copy of the rabies certificate. So all that stuff. We kind of got a little bit lax on the vaccination, but the rabies, we have to have. If they were to come through and we didn't have that, we'd be fined for every dog we have. But the guys that had the dog, I know them very well. I know that they give the shots. I know that they vaccinate. So I got lax on that part of it. He was here for like 2 days. And
so what, you took in a puppy or an adult?
He was like 7 months.
7 months, so still a puppy.
Yeah, he was a puppy, but a lot of times people think they're out of the woodwork at 7 months, and that's not the case at all.
Right.
So I walked out to the kennel in the morning, and there was a big, a big thing of puke there in the kennel. And when client dogs come, it's a huge culture shock for them. New house, new dogs, new people, new scenario. Everything's new, and sometimes that happens just purely out of stress. And I kind of wrote it off for the first. It was about 40 minutes, and then he we had just put our building up too, so he was the first dog in that kennel. So there had never been another dog in that kennel, and then he had moved in. And he had just an explosive diarrhea. And I was like, good night. And sometimes diarrhea happens too, because when they come here, the nerves.
Right. But it's a different look it's a different look. It's a different consistency.
Yeah. And, especially since most of the time we change their food onto what we feed. But I looked at it, and that smell just hit me in the face. And I like I said it before, I'd never dealt with it before, but I knew it wasn't right.
Right. So what? I mean, not to get too graphic and nasty about it, but what about the puke and the diarrhea kind of threw up the red flags?
The puke wasn't like normal. It wasn't it wasn't like he ate too fat. You know, it wasn't just like 3 or 4 kernels that he had, you know, puked up. It was basically the full meal, and then the poop was, you know, it had a little tint of. There wasn't a lot of blood in it, but there was a little bit of blood in it, and it was, you know, there was no consistency at all. It was just pure liquid.
That's scary. That's like you know, I personally, knock on wood for the superstitious ones in the audience, knock on wood. I personally haven't dealt with it. But I've seen, you know, a few of my friends, a few of the people that I'm fairly close to have dealt with it, and the one thing that everyone says is it's water. They shit water, and it's, you know, if you see blood in it, if you see bloody water, basically that's the first sign. Like, you see him puking and you see him shit bloody water, that's the first sign some shit is going sideways, you know. And you need to get in there and start really putting some work in. So as soon as you seen that, as soon as you witnessed that diarrhea, and then those red flags started coming up because of the way it looked and the way it smelled, what was the first step after that? What was the first thing that you did?
I got just a bag of Ziplocs out in the barn, and I kind of take random poop samples in periodically throughout the year. And so I grabbed one of those and got as much of it as I could in a bag and took it up to the vet. They ran a test in like 5 minutes. They came back in, and I got a pretty good relationship with the vet, and like his eyes were just huge. And he's like, "You need to take this stuff home and get your ass to work." So that's what we did.
What he said, this stuff, what did he give you?
He gave me the ringer solution, you know, the big bags that you put in.
Big bags of saline solution.
Right. Correct.
Lactated ringers is for the technical, if you want to get technical about it.
Yep. And I just put that, you know, because parvo, what kills them is dehydration. So it was just keeping them hydrated.
And when he said get to work, so when he said take this, he was handing you a saline solution. And when he said get to work, what did he mean?
Just go home and get him, you know, get him on fluids. Get him. I'd never really dealt with a quarantine type of situation.
Right.
When new dogs come in, they don't go out with the pack, you know, for the first couple of days. For that reason, and I've always done it that way. Just, you know, you never really know what the new dog has, and you know, so I built like a little quarantine area, and you know, put a heat lamp in there, kept him warm, and you know, gave him ringers the vet told me every 2 hours. I was, for the longest time, it was basically a constant. I was basically giving him the ringers constantly, and then he kind of, as they gradually got better, you know, I kind of spread that out a little bit more. I was whooped.
Okay, so that puppy that we're talking about, is that the only dog that showed signs? Also, did his like health or you know, pep, did that deteriorate? Like, could you see him getting sick?
You know, those first couple of days he was here, no, he was fine. He didn't show any signs.
No, I mean, after you noticed the diarrhea
I caught
and
it
stuff.
early enough, but as I was treating him, it knocked him in the. There was times I'd have to basically hold him up and see if he'd try to drink some water on his own. You know, he was just waxed. He couldn't hardly.
Right.
You know, it just took everything out of him. You know, his insides were dry.
So once you noticed the diarrhea, after that you noticed a little decline in his health, and then you caught it early enough to where you could get hydration in him and kind of keep him out of the danger zone.
Right. Yeah, yeah, well, the danger zone that's a vague term because it's there the entire time. But when I got home from the vet and went in there, you could tell he was, I call it down-eared. That comes from the livestock, but you could kind of tell that he was a little bit down, but he was still wagging his tail and he was up, and
right.
And I'm sitting in here building a little hospital bed for him, and he had no idea what was going on. And basically by that night he was waxed.
Jesus. So it happens fast. It happens fast.
Yeah.
So
when I was talking to the vet, because I basically had him on call, he said most of the time it doesn't hit him that hard. So I don't know exactly if it was I didn't care to do any research at that point. I knew what I had, and I knew what I had to do. So
right.
I don't know if there's different strains of it. But yeah, he was very surprised at the decline, or the rapid decline. But
well, what did you do? Because usually when you have one come down with it, usually it's a motherfucker to keep it from spreading. From like I said, from what I've talked to my friends in the business, that what they went through, usually it's a motherfucker to keep it from spreading. So did you have any other dogs come down with it? And if not, how did you stop that?
We had another one, and it was unfortunately a client dog as well. And they had came on the exact same day. And I called both owners, obviously, and explained what was going on. The dog that got it second, his owner opted to do it himself. He wanted to be there in case the worst happened. He didn't want him to be somewhere strange. So I covered most of the expenses on that since it happened in my place. But it once it came down, immediate action was taken. I quarantined the dog that definitely had it, and then the second dog that came down with it, I got once he made that decision, I personally drove him home and got him out of there, and I think a lot of it helped that the building was brand new. There was nothing else in there. I mean, but I was also, every time a dog pooped, I'd collect it in a bag, and like every 2 or 3 days I'd run it into the vet and just have them look over everything. I didn't care who had it at that point. I just wanted to know if it was anywhere else.
So you're saying you'd get up and let's say a typical day, you'd get up before you clean kennels and collect a fecal sample from every kennel, shit sample from every kennel.
Yep.
Obviously mark them. You'd have to mark them to make sure you know what dog it came from, what kennel it came from.
Right.
And then you take them to the vet and have them check them all just to make sure that hasn't spread anywhere else in the building.
Right. Yeah.
And then the infected dogs you've got separated into a different area.
Yeah. I actually I had some leftover garage door panels, which is what we used for our insulation, and so I just built him a little hut and inside that kennel, so that he never left that one specific area.
Right.
Ever.
Right.
The whole time he was sick, he never left, and that was the other hardest thing was having the dogs that we do, the quantity. We didn't let anybody out either. Everybody was quarantined to their kennel. We disinfected the kennels 3 times a day with bleach, and there's a disinfectant called Rocal. It's super expensive, but I mean it actually like took the treatment off my concrete. Like it's just brutal. But it doesn't harm animals, which was really good, and that's why we chose that one. So we mixed bleach, Rocal, and water, And
Say that again. Spell the name of it. Rocal. Spell Rocal.
Huh?
What? Spell that. That cleaning products. You mixed bleach, Rocal. Spell Rocal.
I think it's ROCAL. I think.
And it's a disinfectant. So if the listeners are looking for it, it's Rocal. It's a disinfectant. It's safe for animals, but kills everything.
Yeah, and it's not something that you would want to use every day. I mean, it would break you. It was like $140 for a gallon of it. But in a case like that, it was. Money wasn't even an option. It wasn't even a thing.
Right.
I didn't even care. I mean, because what could have happened was way worse than the $100 and whatever dollars that little jug of disinfectant was.
And that goes right back to, if you're going to do this shit the right way. And my listeners want to know what the people who are doing shit the right way are doing. Okay? So if you want to do shit the right way, you have to take the dollar signs out of the fucking equation. If you want to do shit the right way, you need to have some money set aside. Most people have a couple thousand set aside in case something happens to their vehicle or a pipe bust in their house or something. You need to have the same kind of security fund for your fucking breeding program. If something like this goes down, you run into a situation where you think you could possibly have parvo running rampant in the fucking kennel, you do whatever you have to do. You spend whatever you have to spend. You do whatever you need to do to keep your animals safe and healthy and alive.
Right.
Okay, so you bleached 3 times a day, kept all the animals separated. You used Rocal to kill whatever bacteria were in there.
Right.
And you had the puppy that came with the parvo, because we all know parvovirus takes 7 days to fucking marinate. I call it marinating. It takes 7 days to marinate before you really even see the signs, right? So when that puppy showed up at your house, he had parvo. He came with parvo. So you had the one dog that came with parvo. You had it spread to one other dog. That's pretty fucking amazing, dude. Like, to have, because I've been inside your building, to have that, that much, that quick response and control over the whole situation. You had a plan, you knew what you needed to do, and you executed the plan, and you literally saved none of them died. Am I wrong?
Right, none of them died.
Nothing died in that scenario. So on top of coming down with parvo, you took in a dog with parvo. It only spread to one other dog. Nothing else even come down with the disease or the virus. And I always get a little confused between the difference between a disease and a virus. But that's anyway, that's a different topic. But nothing died. So everybody listening, if you want a fucking blueprint to keep your shit alive, this is why I wanted to talk to Tyler about this, because to keep everything alive in that scenario, to just have parvo literally dumped on your fucking kennel floor and to have everything survive, that's fucking that's an amazing thing, dude. That's like best case scenario. I mean, to only have 2 dogs come down with it and then nothing die. That's the best case scenario.
Yeah, and I just want to clear some things up. When I picked that dog, the dog that originally brought it to the house, I picked him up from his house, and he acted fine. Obviously, if he was showing signs of it at his house,
right,
I obviously would not have brought him home. But
I'm saying being at your house for 2 days and then the shit coming up, it takes at least 7 days for that shit to marinate.
Right, yeah. I just wanted to clear the air. If the owner is listening, I don't want him to.
No, yeah, obviously the shit happens. Nobody's fault. You know what I mean? The shit shit sometimes does happen. And that could even have been a situation where he had somebody come over to the house, not even knowing that that person was around a sick dog.
Right.
And, just happened to brush by the puppy or pet the puppy for 5 minutes or something, anything. And not, not have any hand in the parvo whatsoever. But what I'm saying is to have that scenario, to have that, parvo basically dumped out of the sky on you, to have that kind of reaction and that kind of result, that's fantastic.
Yeah, we were really lucky, honestly. The other thing that we did too, I think, is a huge part of the success was we had kennel shoes and we had outside shoes. So every time we went into the kennel, we took our shoes off outside, and we came in and we disinfected our socks, and then we put on our kennel shoes, and we had kennel clothes. I mean, we basically stripped down to the skivvies to get into the kennel, and everything stayed in there that was in there, and nothing came in.
Right.
And when it was all said and done, we put it in a bag and we burnt the clothes and the shoes and everything. That was because you never know where that stuff can be. And
it can be airborne. It can go. You step in. You step in the area where that shit was on the floor. Now it's on your shoe, and you carry it in the house. Now every dog in the house has parvo.
Right. Yeah, and we had 2 litters of puppies. This was before we had litters of puppies before our building was complete. So we actually had 2 litters of puppies in the house at that time, and
scary, dude.
And oh man, it was a mess. But I've worked in the livestock industry before, and especially in the pigs. I mean, pigs are like the disease monkeys of the livestock industry, and that's we had to, every barn that we went into, we had to change clothes or put different clothes on, disinfect, and so that was probably the biggest part. Every kennel, when I scraped kennels in the morning, or however many times, because there wasn't a pile of poop ever on the kennel floor during that time, I disinfected my shoes and the shovel every single kennel every time.
See, now that's putting in work. That's like
when we fed, nothing ever touched the food bowls, because a lot of, now when I feed, I just take the food bowl and scoop up the ration into their food bowl, just in the bin.
Right.
And if we would have done it then, obviously we would have spread it through the dog food. So every single kennel got fed 1 cup at a time, and it never touched the food bowl. Anything that a dog touched or we touched that the dogs were in, it never went from kennel to kennel.
Is that Axel snoring in the background?
Oh, yeah, you can hear him.
I love it, dude. Usually, no, it's fine. Listen, it's fine. Usually, first of all, it's a bunch of dog people listening to this, okay? They also have snoring dogs sitting right beside them. They know exactly how it is. Usually it's my shorty bull Clutch who just sneaks up out of nowhere, and he'll lay right behind me while I'm doing the podcast and snore right into the microphone. But that's what you have to do. So I think the theme behind the whole thing is early awareness. You need to, as soon as you see that puking shitting combination and that liquid diarrhea with the blood traces combination, as soon as you see that, you need to go see your fucking veterinarian instantly. You need to collect a sample, go see your veterinarian. And I think the theme behind the whole thing is keeping everybody separated as much as possible and keeping everything disinfected as much as possible. And I think like you're saying, not having the shoes the same, not having the clothes the same from inside to outside, not letting anything that a dog come in contact with anything else. not even letting the dogs themselves, out to where they can mingle and, you know what I mean, keeping everything contained. I think that is the key to keeping your shit alive.
Yeah, that was definitely probably the biggest part. Just just having that experience with the pigs, just knowing, and even like, I mean, it came down to where we touched the kennels. Like when we opened the kennel door, we did it with 2 fingers, kind of prissy looking, but we did it with 2 fingers. And then as soon as we were done with that kennel, we just sprayed it down with bleach and roadkill. I mean, it was brutal. Usually it takes me about an hour and a half if I'm really taking my time to clean kennels. It was an all day thing just to get through them. Everything that was touched was disinfected.
Yeah, but that's what you got to do. I mean, that's, people, I'm telling you, motherfuckers, this is not a joke. Parvo is not a game.
No way.
If you want to keep your shit alive, you just replay this episode. You listen to everything this man just said. Follow those steps, and we can't. You obviously can't guarantee your results, but you're gonna have a much better chance keeping your shit alive by following that. I mean, honestly, I can't imagine. It sounds like a fucking nightmare, but
it was brutal.
Whatever goes down. I mean, that's part of Parvo is part of owning animals.
Yeah.
And that, to segue into the next topic, Pyometra.
Well, I got one more tidbit on that.
Oh, hang on, we're not done. He's not done. Dr. Wilson's not done dropping knowledge here, people.
No. So like you said before, the gestation period, or the marinating period, as you call it, is 7 days.
There's no scientific terms coming from this end, okay? It's a nice little marination period, all right?
So like you said, that period is 7 days. So if
you at least 7, right? 7 to 10, 7 to 14, something like that.
Yeah, we were told 7 to 15. 15 is high, but you're pretty much out of the clear, or you're in the clear.
Yeah.
So then there was that time period, like we didn't have any symptoms. Everybody was eating, everybody was drinking, there's no symptoms at all. But you didn't want to let the dogs out, because if somebody had that festering inside of them and got out with the other dogs,
right,
start the cycle all over again.
One little shit spray. One little shit spray in the yard, and it's over. You get one of them's cooking. 6-7 days. They go out. You let them out in the yard. One little shit spray in that yard, and it is you got a whole new nightmare.
Yeah, it's all over again. So we waited the full 15 days, and then we rechecked every dog again, and then we actually pulled swabs off of like kind of like heavy traffic areas in the kennel, like doorknobs, kennels, the kennel latches.
Right.
That kennel, we pulled swabs off all that and had those tested. And then once those results came back negative, all the dogs came back negative, then we kind of eased back into the regular pack life, so to speak. So it wasn't over after the first dog was cleared up. It was, it was almost a whole month before the dogs ever even saw outside again, which, it's brutal for the dogs to be cooped up like that, but, it's much better than dead.
Yeah, I mean, if you have to pick one of the two options that you have, a little bit of anxiousness from being cooped up is way better than having 16 dogs puking and shitting everywhere. Now, is that, you mentioned everybody was eating and drinking. Is that something that you also noticed with that puppy that got sick? He stopped eating and stopped drinking. Was that something that, like a early symptom that you saw also?
I wasn't looking for it with that puppy,
right.
And I don't much pay attention to the drinking so much. I pay attention to the feed, obviously, for weight, for the show ring and things like that. But The first dog I didn't notice it at all, but the second dog, when I went to fill up the water bowls and clean them out, I noticed that his bowl was still like, I kind of got a little OCD that I fill the bowls up to the very, very top, and that kind of lets me know if they've drank. Well, I noticed that his hadn't been touched. There was no slobber. It was still full to the brim, and that's when I really started watching him like a hawk. And I think that's what helped him is I caught it really before any sign was even shown. His next poop, I took it in and caught it. He never had a bloody poop, never puked. I just noticed that he hadn't drank anything. And, I took his poop in, took the fecal in right away, and they said it could be a false positive, but I said, nope, there's no false positives here. That dude's got it.
Yeah, no, we're not going to see 4 symptoms and then count on it being a false positive. Fuck that.
Yeah, there's no way I'm taking the risk. Especially as rapid as that other one set in.
Right.
We don't have 7 days for this thing to fester and cook, and this is a 12-hour deal, whatever strain it was.
Well, like I don't know. It's that awareness though. That's what I mean. Like being able to notice little things like that. The water consumption, or not eating their food, or being in tune with your shit like that. That's a skill. That's not something that most people just come into dog breeding with. Like that's a skill that you get over time and comes with experience. It's a crazy situation, but like I said, it's part of the life that we chose to fucking live, And I'm going to use the segue, even though I was trying to segue before and you cut me off, motherfucker. I'm going to use the segue again.
I'm done now.
But Pyometra is also one of those things that if you breed long enough, you're going to run into it. It's one of those things that happen. Now, for the people that don't know, Pyometra is a uterine infection that basically runs out of control. Now, there's basically different levels to it, to where if you catch it early enough to where it's just like a vaginosis, to where it's just got a little white discharge, you can get some antibiotics in there and you can get it cleared out. If you don't catch it early enough though, it could be devastating for a female. Now, I don't know, have you ever personally dealt with PYO?
Yes.
So one of the things that I notice with Pyometra, the first sign, and this is the whole purpose behind this episode, is just to kind of, I feel like the early awareness, early recognition of this shit is the biggest key to getting yourself out of what I call a danger zone. With Pyometra, it's tricky sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing that I always notice is the water consumption goes up drastically. Like normal, like if your female's pregnant, okay, so Pyometra 99 out of 100 times is going to happen after your female comes into heat. Okay, your female comes into heat, the cervix dilates. So you see the blood discharge dilates to allow the blood to come out, dilates to allow semen to go in. So when the female's cervix is dilated, it's wide open in there. Okay, and now just like with any other vagina, there's normal bacteria that's in there all the time. When a female comes into heat, the cervix dilates, and also the uterus produces this mucus. This is how my vet described it to me. Produces this mucus that holds that bacteria in there now. So the natural flushing process of the uterus now is not happening because that mucus is holding that bacteria in the uterus. So then when your female goes out of heat, The cervix then is not dilated anymore, so it closes up. Now it's got that infection held in there to where, and it's just a perfect place for bacteria to grow. So that infection, if you don't catch it early enough, can just take off and go crazy. When you dealt with it, what was the first thing that you noticed? The water also?
Oh yeah, definitely the water. The
And like I
water
said,
consumption, and like I said before, kind of that down-eared behavior.
right,
You know,
right.
a lot of females will get slow when they're pregnant. You know, just kind of not slow, just more lazy. You know, take a lot of naps and you know, just
Right,
I mean, they're cooking little monsters.
yeah, they're cooking literal food monsters in there that all they want to do is eat and shit, literally. So,
right. So yeah, you know, once that becomes that down-eared mentality for the dog, you know, that's got to raise a red flag.
for sure, and I've dealt with it 3 times now, and this is in the past 2 years. So it's super fresh in my mind. It's like a fucking nightmare that keeps it's like once a year. It happens. And I talk to my vet, listen, what can I do? Should I be bleaching twice a day? Like, should I bleach the kennel every, what should I do? Like, what can I do? And he tells me, listen, there's nothing you can do. There are, kennels everywhere who use sand or pea gravel for their flooring. And, anytime a female takes a piss, they're sitting their vagina right in the sand or pea gravel, and there's stuff in there all the time, and they don't have parvo at all. So it's a matter of your female being more susceptible, more prone to it. It's also a matter of sometimes bad luck where, your female gets into a place or she takes a piss in the wrong spot and gets bacteria that she's not used to in there. There's a lot of whys. There's a lot of there's a lot of, this happened because of this. With Pyometra, there's not really this is why this happened. There's a lot of things where you can point directly to the cause and say, this is why this happened. You know what I mean? With Pyometra, there's not really something you can point at and say, this is the cause. Now, obviously, the bacteria and the mucus combination and the cervix closing back up and all that stuff. I mean, obviously, that's the actual cause, but there's nothing you can do. There's not a whole lot of prevention that you can do.
No, because even it's kind of just a little story about one of my experiences. It was actually for a dog that I bred for a guy, but he had problems getting her bred before, and he thought maybe it was a bacterial something. And I said, well, I bet that very well could be. So put her on a round of antibiotics before we breed her. Kind of clean it up. So I went to do the AI, and like normal, but I could not get the straw in very far. Like it was, I don't know. I'd never seen anything like that. Usually, you can you get it in the main channel there, and then you can kind of poke around a little bit, and you can really bury the straw and get it, kind of in the sweet spot. Like I was only in probably 2 to 3 inches, and it was just like a brick wall. I couldn't find anything. And I'm like, man, that is the weirdest thing that I've ever seen. And, so I just put the semen in there, and we held her up for a little bit. And as soon as we let her down, probably half of it fell out. And I'm like, man, there's something jacked. And this was our first experience with Pyometra. So I wasn't too in tune with this whole P word, but,
the dreaded P's.
I just knew something was different about this bitch. Well, she ended up getting Pyometra, and they basically said that her she just kind of had a twist or a different bend in there that didn't allow for the fluid to flow as freely as it should have. So it just all collected at that bend, and that's where it happened.
Yeah, the bacteria built up in that.
Yeah.
Well, the flushing. I mean, the part of the flushing natural flushing process of the uterus and the vagina. I mean, that part of that is clearing some of that fluid out of there with the bacteria.
Right.
So if that process is impeded in any way, it'd probably be pretty easy for bacteria to build up in there. But so I think the first thing that I notice every time is the water. I notice that they're drinking 2 to 3 times more water than they normally do. Sometimes they stop eating, sometimes they don't.
Right.
Sometimes they'll eat right up until you take them to the vet and he tells you that she has pyometra. Sometimes they stop eating. What I also notice is they, like you said, they have that down-eared look to where they are just, they don't have the pep, they don't have the energy, the personality's not the same. You can tell if you're in tune with your animals, you can tell when they're not themselves. Right,
definitely.
So the water, keep your eye on the water first thing. For the first 3 weeks after your female's bred, keep an eye on that water. I'm telling you. Now, I'm not saying if she's drinking, if she normally drinks half a bowl of water a day and she's now drinking 3/4 of a bowl of water, that's because she's fucking pregnant. All right. Yeah,
don't panic over that.
Don't panic. But if she normally drinks a half a bowl of water a day and you're filling her bowl up halfway through the day and she's drinking two bowls or a bowl and a half, 2 times as much as she normally drinks, that's the first sign.
Yeah.
I also noticed they get a dull a dull look to their coat. I don't know what it is, but it's just like all the shine and vibrance goes right out of their coat, and it's like their hair dries right out. The biggest sign is
I've not noticed that. That's good information right there.
Well, I mean, it could have just been on that individual female, could have just been a sign from her. But I noticed that both times she's had PYO now. Like her it just dried out. Like all the shine and brightness went out. I mean, she's champagne too, and she's normally shining and the coat's normally smooth and bright, and it just dulled way out. But that could be just an individual sign from her.
Well, and I think that's a valid point too. I'm not that experienced with PYO, but I don't. Her thing may have been a coat. Another dog, it could be something else. But
it's just something's off.
Yeah,
you notice that something's off.
That whole in tune with your female thing, I think that plays a huge role in it. If something is way off, there's probably something up.
Yeah, you definitely need to get to investigating,
Right. Yeah, and don't just slug it off as, she rolled in the dirt or, whatever.
Right. And if you notice this shit, if you notice the water consumption goes up and the food consumption goes down and she's not herself and her coat looks like shit, and if you notice that stuff, you want to look for some discharge. Right. That's going to be the biggest telltale sign is discharge coming from your female. Your female, the first 3 weeks, 4 weeks should not have discharge in a normal pregnancy. Now, if you didn't breed your female, she definitely shouldn't have any discharge after her heat. You know what I mean? So if you notice any kind of fluid coming out of your bitch after she's been out of heat or after she's been bred, that's bad. That's a bad thing. Now, if she gets into 6 weeks, 7 weeks pregnant and you see some discharge, some mucus, I've seen that before. That's completely normal.
Right.
The first 3 weeks to 4 weeks, if you see discharge, that's a flag. Like that's a big red flag waving in your face. You need to go somewhere and do something.
Right. Definitely.
But now here's where it comes down to the difference between quote unquote open pyometra and quote unquote closed pyometra. Now a lot of people think they're different infections are different. It's not. It's the same fucking thing. The difference is open pyometra, the cervix dilates to allow fluid to come out. Closed pyometra, the cervix didn't dilate. So when your female's in heat, obviously we talked about that, the cervix is dilated. When your female goes out of heat, that goes back to normal. Open pyometra, that cervix will either stay dilated or re-dilate to allow that fluid to come out. Closed pyometra stays, obviously it stays closed, stays normal size, doesn't allow fluid to come out. So it's hard to tell with closed pyometra. It's hard to tell because you don't have that discharge.
Right.
That would be something I would if you don't see discharge, if you go through all these things and you see the water going, you see the water consumption go up, see the food consumption go down, you notice your female's not herself, you check for discharge, there's no discharge. The next thing you do is check her temperature.
Yep.
If you check her temperature, she has a fever over 102, over 103, that's bad. Right? 104, that's bad. That's just another sign. That's just one more straw on that camel's back that's about to break that motherfucker. You know what I mean?
Yeah. For sure. That temperature is no good anyway. That needs assistance either way.
If you check anything and the temperature says 104, you've got an issue. Somewhere something's not running the right way.
Right.
But I think the biggest thing with PYO is being able to recognize that as early as possible. I made the mistake of the first time I ever dealt with it. I made the mistake of almost not ignoring it, but it just didn't have. I just didn't have the urgency that I should have had. Like when I first noticed it to when the female actually went to the vet, it was about 6 days. And you can't wait that long. You cannot wait that long. As soon as you see discharge coming out of your female, you need to go see your vet. Like that day, the same day, that day. I made the mistake, obviously, and it was too late anyway. Once you see the discharge, the color it was probably too late anyway. But I feel like I put the female more of risk than she needed to be by waiting. That's one of those things where you make a mistake and you learn from it, and that shit won't happen again. But I think the thing I want to get through to the people listening is, like, as soon as you notice there's something off about your dog, you need to get to investigating. You need to start digging in, you know?
Yeah, and I had another buddy of mine that didn't have, thank God I didn't have anything to do with the situation, because I feel awful when I do upbreeding and it does turn into PYO, but
that's another thing. Before you get too deep into that, that's another thing. Like, Pyometra is not, like, if you're doing an AI or doing a surgical or letting your dog tie up naturally, that has almost no effect on whether that dog contracts Pyometra or not. Unless you pull the fucking tube out of the fish tank, as Jamie Sweet would say. Unless you pulled the fucking tube out of the fish tank to do the breeding, the cause of that bitch's Pyometra almost 1,000% of the time is not because she was AI'd. Especially if you're using new equipment. If you're using a new pipette and a new plunger each time, there's almost no way it was because of an AI that your bitch got Pyometra. So just to preempt your story with that, because I've heard that before too, and females that I've bred that, you know, one female that I've done an AI on come down with Pyometra also, and it's just like I know there's no way I should feel guilty, but you feel guilty.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. But you know, this buddy of mine, he was like, for some reason he felt like he was stuck like a rock in a hard place, because his bitch was bred and she had Pyometra, but he wanted the puppies, and you know, when that happens, there is 0%. Well, is there a chance? I don't know. I guess I should ask that. But it's not very good that the puppies are going to survive, and the mother.
This is another conversation I just had with my vet on Saturday, when I found out Cashmere had PYO.
Right.
Because she had five. I mean, we had the uterus outside of her stomach. We had the ultrasound machine on the uterus. We clearly seen 5 puppies in there, and I asked the doc the same thing. What are the chances that we dump this bitch full of antibiotics and we try to save those puppies? My
Right.
doc, I mean, and you got to understand something about my vet. He's a no bullshit kind of guy. Like,
Right.
he's not gonna bullshit you to save your feelings, which I love about him. I love that shit because I'm the same way.
Right.
He said there is a 0% chance of saving these puppies. So maybe if we caught it, 10 days earlier, if we'd have caught it the very first day to where you would consider it to be quote unquote Pyometra, because Pyometra is an advanced infection. It can start out as just a normal vaginitis infection that turns into Pyometra. So if you catch it early enough, yeah, maybe there is a chance of saving the puppies. But if you don't catch it early enough, it's a slim to none. You know what I mean? I don't want to say 0 because I've heard of people, with females that are pregnant with Pyometra, dumping them full of antibiotics, and miracles do happen. But I'm not going to base my decision off of the exception. I'm basing my decision off the rule.
Right.
But yeah, I think you got a slim to none. That's a slim to none chance if your female actually has Pyometra and your vet diagnoses it with Pyometra. I would say slim to 0.
Right. And that was kind of my thought, but he was like, he was kind of like, well, I'm going to try to save the puppies instead. I'm like, well, really all that's going to happen is that you're going to lose your puppies and your bitch.
Yeah.
So, like, that's actually the worst option.
Yeah, that's the last thing I'm thinking about.
Everybody dies.
And again, that's what I literally, I'm glad we're talking about it now because it's so fresh in my mind. Just went through this scenario Saturday. So it's like, obviously that crossed my mind too. Can we save the puppies? As soon as Doc says there's pretty much a 0% chance, that's out the window. Now your focus is, can we save the uterus?
Right.
Now the focus is, can we save this female as a breeding female? Can she stay intact? I mean, not to be blunt about it, but after you realize that there's no saving those puppies, fuck those puppies. Let's save the uterus so next time we can try to prevent the parvo and have a healthy litter.
Right.
Once you realize, like this particular bitch that I dealt with Saturday, this is the second time she was pregnant with parvo. The first, or with PYO. Jesus Christ. Now you got me thinking parvo. Jesus. Anyway, but the second time she was pregnant with PYO, and we ran a round of antibiotics while she was in heat this time because she had parvo last time. So we did the preventative PYO last time. So we did the preventative measures, and she still has PYO. So that's one of those situations where, do I want to put this female through another round of this medication? Because if you've ever dealt with it, if you've ever tried to use these medications to flush out a uterus, it's pretty rough on your bitch.
Yeah, it's not pleasant.
It's pretty rough on your bitch. So instead of putting her through that again and going through the process again, for me, it was just a better decision to fix the bitch, make sure she's healthy, make sure she, can still have a full life as someone's pet.
Right.
But at the same time, I mean, you have to turn the attention and make her the priority at that point. You have to. As an ethical breeder, as someone who, I feel like, obviously I'm not the pillar of morality, but I feel like I'm a ethical. When it comes to my dogs, I'm an ethical guy. To me, the priority has to change from the puppies to the uterus. You make a list. You get a priority list. Okay, how are the puppies, doc? Not good. How's the uterus? Oh, not good. How's the bitch? You know what I mean? How can we? What can we do for her? And I think a lot of people don't understand. Even having your bitch spayed with Pyometra is a dangerous fucking thing. Having your bitch spayed without Pyometra is a dangerous thing. You know, putting your female under at any time is a dangerous thing. With a surgical, you're not all the way under. It's a little less it's a little less dangerous. But this is a major surgery. I mean, this is a major surgery. So anytime you go into a major surgery, there's risks, right?
Right.
But when your female has PYO, the risks increase because now you're cutting out a bag of infection from inside your female's body, right? And the uterus acts like its own little I call it ecosystem. That's obviously not the right word. I'm not a fucking scientist. But
that's what I was taught in college, so that was well worded.
Well, yeah, the uterus is like its own little ecosystem in there. It's not really part of the body. Okay, so the uterus can enclose that, or what do I want to say? Contain that infection to where it doesn't get into the actual bloodstream or body cavity. Well, when you're cutting that uterus out of there, you have to cut the connections, right? You have to open that up to where it's not a self-contained thing anymore. So there's a chance of spilling infection into your bitch's body. If that happens, it doesn't take much. Your bitch could be in the danger zone pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Because that's you get infection in the bloodstream. You get that pussy fluid that filled up the uterus in the bloodstream. You could have, you're looking at septicemia. You're looking at your bitch's whole system shutting down from that, and it puts her in a pretty dangerous place. It's no matter what you decide to do.
It's really a lose-lose. I mean, it
right.
And even once you get her home, you don't know if that shit dripped into her body cavity.
And there's really no way, especially if she has open, quote unquote, open PYO where the cervix is dilated. The tube between the cervix and the vagina can't be cut all the way out. So you have to cut that at some point. And if the cervix is dilated, there's going to be fluid in that tube. So once you cut that tube, there's almost no way from keeping all that fluid, from at least some of it, leaking into the body cavity. So for the past 4 days, we've been on high alert with her.
Yeah.
You know, you're not out of the woods for a few days at least. You know, obviously we're strong antibiotics running through her system. You know, my vet's super competent, super intelligent guy. I've never seen him worried until Saturday.
Right.
Is that crazy? I've seen that. I walked into that office and they had a French bulldog on the table amputating an arm because it got tore up by a bull terrier. The calmest face you've ever seen. Saturday, when we were spaying this bitch, it's a dangerous thing. You know, if you know, you mess up and that infection spills all through the body cavity, it doesn't take much. Your bitch can be septic and dead within 24 hours.
It doesn't take much.
It's a dangerous thing. It's scary shit, and it's part of the life, man. It's part of this shit that we chose to do.
Boy, if this is anybody's first time listening, I'm like, fuck these dogs.
Yeah. No, and it's, you know, that's obviously, I'm not trying to run anybody off. No. Anybody that's listening, I don't want you to feel discouraged. But at the same time, I want you to be well aware of the realities that we face.
Yeah, and I think alertness of your animals outside of these two topics, which are obviously probably the two most worried about outside of brucellosis. I hope you do an episode on that because that shit is insane.
Yeah, brucellosis is K9AIDS. Like, that's what I'm calling it from now on.
It's no bueno.
No, it's not. You've been doing them Taco Tuesdays. They got you speaking Spanish up here now.
Oh yeah, I got like 6 words in my vocab right now. Pretty solid. But yeah, I think the alertness and understanding your dog's behavior, and is a huge part of it. And I don't understand. I don't understand. I guess I just have that, and but a lot of people around here will call me and with simple problems, and I just don't understand how it got that far. Like it's to the point where amoxicillin or cephalexin isn't going to fix it anymore. Like your dog has a hole in his neck from a dog fight. Like you should have called the vet 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
You should not be at my house right now because I got a couple extra cephalexins laying around. Like you're way beyond that point.
Well, it's common sense to you, and some of it's common sense to me, but that has a lot to do with your experience.
Well, yeah, but I mean, also, I explain the down ear syndrome to people all the time. If your dog looks like it's uncomfortable, just like when you're sick, it's sick.
Yeah, something's going on for sure.
Even if you don't understand it, don't wait 2 weeks or sometimes 2 days. Thinking that he's just going to buff out of it. And, a lot of times, if they're that down, take it in.
Yeah, do you think it's a lot to do with people, what I like to call balling on the budget, where they don't really have $250 to go see the vet? I think it's that's an epidemic we have. If balling on the budget is like a epidemic that we have throughout. I mean, not just bull breeds or the American Bully. I mean, throughout dogs, throughout people that are breeding dogs, they're trying to do it at the lowest cost possible. And sometimes you have to bite the bullet and go spend some fucking money. Yeah.
I mean, there's times you got to know when you can save and when you just throw a bag of cash on the table and be like, here, fix it.
Yeah.
There's definitely times that money can't even be a thought. It's especially for the two cases that the two illnesses that we're talking about today.
Yeah, the dreaded peas.
Yeah. That's when you just throw the whole duffel bag of extra cash on the vet's counter and be like, here you go. This is all I got. Fix it.
Yeah, and with Pyometra, it's there's not a lot you can do as a breeder, as an individual to like I said, to prevent it, or once it happens, there's not a lot you can do. It's really up to your vet what course that they want to take as far as like treatment and shit goes. But with Parvo, that's a lot to do with you. That's a lot to do with how you react to the situation. That's a lot to do with the plan that you already have in place for something if that does happen.
Right. Yeah. In the vaccination, I asked my vet, like, when that month was over and the swabs of the kennel and everything came back negative, I went in there and I was like, how did that not become catastrophic?
Neopar, honey. That's why.
Neopar. That's all he said. And then he went back to he was doing a C-section on a poodle or something. He just looked at me and said, you use Neopar. Went right back to work. And I was like, good night.
I'm telling people don't understand, man. That shit is miracle shit.
Just saved me everything I know.
Yeah, what'd you say? $250 a puppy is about what it costs.
Yeah, it's
I think it's like $40 for 10 doses.
Yeah, it's nothing compared to
so even at the maximum, you're talking about $4.50 per puppy.
Right.
You use Neopar one time when they're 5 weeks. I'm telling you, it changes how you look at Parvo, to be honest with you, because the more I learn about Neopar, if you're protected by Neopar, you're protected. You're legitimately protected from Parvo.
Yeah.
It's
I'm
a big
a
thing.
very firm believer in
It's
that vaccine after that whole incident.
see, that just makes me sound smarter. How many times have I said Neopar on this podcast, you motherfuckers?
I think they should write you a letter for sure.
Hey, Neopar. I'm just saying, I'm pushing your shit anyway. First of all, no one from Neopar is ever gonna hear this podcast. Okay, no one from that company.
Another thing for not a preventative, but once that cleared, I was very focused on the building and where the dogs were, and Doc said, we need like soil samples. Go outside and find a turd in the yard and flip it over, and take a little scraping of that dirt and bring it in, and we'll run a sample on that too. I'm like, are you serious? And he's like, yeah, you just never know where. You never know where that stuff is.
Well, yeah, and if that shit gets in your soil, I mean, there have been people who have had to replace 4-foot deep soil around their whole yard.
Yeah.
Because that shit's in their soil. So I mean, it's not a joke. It's definitely not something I want people taking lightly.
Right.
I appreciate you telling your story, dude. I appreciate you coming on, telling your story about the parvo. I guarantee it's going to help somebody in the future. If not tomorrow, it'll be months from now. Somebody who listened to this will be like, holy fuck, I think I got some stuff going on. And this episode will help people for sure.
Yeah, use Neopar.
Use theme of the day, July 4th, Independence Day 2017. Use Neopar.
Yep.
Okay, so tell these motherfuckers where you're gonna be, where they can see you. If they don't know already, you're a professional handler. You do this shit for real. He is in this life for real. So if you guys are going to shows or looking to go to shows or get into shows, this would be the handler extraordinaire that I would recommend, among a couple others. But tell them where you're going to be and how they can get a hold of you if they do want to hire you for some handling.
We will be at Purina Farms on July 8th. I'm looking at the show schedule right now, so I might stutter a little bit here. But then July 22nd, we will be in Indiana, I do believe. Yep, Indianapolis. And then I think the next one after that will be the World Cup in Georgia.
So the whole month of August you're taking off?
Yeah, probably. I don't see anything on here. Oh, no. We're going to the Dayton, Ohio show as well. That's August 12th.
So Purina Farms, Indianapolis, Dayton, Ohio, ATL for World Cup.
Yep, that's what it's looking like right now.
Okay, and on Facebook, it's Tyler Wilson. I call him Dr. Wilson. On Facebook, you're going to find him under Tyler Wilson or Bent River Bully Co.
Yes, sir.
Okay, sir. Thanks for being on the show. I appreciate you. What is this? Is this the second time or third time?
Second time.
So, officially, a friend of the podcast.
The first one's just a guest. Now I'm a friend.
Yeah, the first one, you're a guest. We kind of put you through the paces, see if you can hang, see if you can handle what's really going down in here. Second time, you're a friend of the podcast.
Does that mean I get like a sticker or like a shirt or something?
No, you get nothing. It's you get you just get the title. It's just when you come on from now on, I'll introduce you as a friend of the podcast. That's pretty much the only prize.
Yeah, well.
All right, sir. Thanks for being on the show. I'm gonna wrap a little bit, so I'm gonna let you go.
So you're done with me now?
I'm good. Unless you got something else to say, unless you got some other plugs or products you want to push, I'm good.
Nope, I'm out.
All right, brother. Thanks, sir.
Yeah, we'll see you.
Bye. Okay. Now, I hope that helps. I hope the information that we shared helps in the future. I know it will. I know it's going to help at least one of you guys out there. PYO and PARVO are nothing to fuck with. You know what I mean? Wu-Tang Clan ain't nothing to fuck with. PARVO, nothing to fuck with. PYO, nothing to fuck with. It's a shitty feeling, man. You don't understand how bad it sucks to stand next to your vet and watch him cut 5 puppies out. That's you. This female that I just lost to PYO is the only access to a 5th generation of my creations that I have. So with those puppies that just died, it was a 5th generation of my creations. That's a fucking punch to the gut, man. All right, I'm done depressing you for the week. PYO's a serious thing. PARVO's a serious thing. The biggest tip is awareness. You wanna save your animals? Be aware of what's going on. Okay, if you want to see me, I will be in the Bahamas August 7th. I will also be in Atlanta September 9th. World Cup will be one of the biggest shows of the year. Last year it was huge. The event video that I did for this event last year has 110,000 views on YouTube. It is massive. This year it will be bigger. Obviously, I'm better on the camera now. We got better equipment. Can't wait to shoot this event. As always, Bull-NA-ChinaShop podcast, the first and only podcast dedicated to the bull breeds and the American bully lifestyle, is brought to you by Bull-NA-ChinaShop.com. For any and all episodes of the Bull-NA-ChinaShop podcast, head to Bull-NA-ChinaShop.com. That's Bull-NA-ChinaShop.com. Hit the blog page. The newest episode will be at the top of the page. I just went Boston there for a second. Newest episode will be at the top of the page. The farther you scroll down, the farther back in the episodes you'll go, all the way down to episode 1. If you're looking for videos, if you don't want to go to the YouTube channel, Bull-NA-ChinaShop TV, you can stay right on the homepage of Bull-NA-ChinaShop.com. All the videos from the Bull-NA-ChinaShop TV YouTube channel are right there on the homepage. More stuff coming for the website, upgrades, new shit. Been talking about it, done talking about it. We're also, that's Bull-NA-ChinaShop.com. We're also brought to you by the Bully Embassy. The Bully Embassy is an elite group of breeders, owners, handlers, and judges from around the world. We are one of the most sought after groups in the bull breed community. Every member of the Bully Embassy has a long list of accolades and accomplishments to stand behind. You can find us at your next event. Just look for the Bully Embassy tent or visit the Bully Embassy on Facebook or go to thebullyembassy.com. We are also brought to you by Bully King Magazine. Bully King Magazine is right now the online leader in American bully magazines. For any and all info on Bully King Magazine, visit bullykingmag.com. There's also a Bully King app. If you go on Apple or Android devices, just type in Bully King Mag. Okay. You motherfuckers. Now, as always, if you want to find me on social media, type in Bull-NA-ChinaShop.com on Facebook, Bull-NA-ChinaShop podcast on Instagram, Bull-NA-ChinaShop on Snapchat, Bull-ChinaShop Thai on Twitter, and YouTube, it's Bull-NA-ChinaShop TV. If you're looking for my personal pages, Ty Lumley on Facebook, Ty_Lumley on Instagram. I don't know what to tell you, people. The train doesn't stop. Episode 48 in the fucking books. I love this shit, man. I'm so blessed. I love every motherfucker that's listening right now, and every motherfucker that will be listening in the future. I love your faces. Thank you for the support. I'll see you next week. Episode 49. I'm not going to let the cat out of the bag yet, but it's going to be a good one. Episode 50 is going to be fucking historic. I love the face.